Gas is one of the most used things in the world, but it's not talked about too much. My name is Jack Greenleaf, and I picked Marathon Petroleum as my Fortune 500 company. Nothing more, let's just get straight into it. Today I'll be talking about my purpose, such as why I picked Marathon Petroleum and what my research question is about. Then I'll go into basic information about Marathon, my findings from my research, and then we'll move on to the study I conducted, which is a questionnaire. After that, we'll talk about what I found from my questionnaire, and we'll wrap it up in a conclusion of all my findings, so my study, research, and my questionnaire findings. I picked Marathon because I know there's a marathon plant very close to me in the Metro Detroit area. Because of this reason, I wanted to learn more about the company, more specifically what they do for the environment. I always see petroleum companies getting a bad rep, and I want to know if that's all there is to it, or if they have good deeds that are going unnoticed. Marathon Petroleum is an American-based petroleum company that harvests and manufactures valuable crude oil. Crude oil can be used for gasoline for your car, jet fuel, diesel for trucking companies, and heating oils for the furnace in your home, as well as it can be turned into tar for asphalt. Marathon is America's largest petroleum producer with over 16 refineries in 13 states, producing over 3 million barrels of crude oil a day. Now on to what responsibility Marathon has for itself. Marathon is focused on preserving the environment, being as energy efficient as possible, an effort to maximize flare reduction, cut down on greenhouse gas emissions, have a better recycling system, and focuses on reducing criteria pollutions. All these aspects will be talked about individually in the upcoming slides. Marathon is working at preserving our environment by owning and maintaining 23 wildlife habitats with over 1,347 acres of land. To help the visual learners out and to put it in perspective easier for you guys, that's over 1,000 football fields of land just dedicated to the environment. That's how much land is there that Marathon, a oil company, is putting into helping the environment. By identifying where energy can come conserved, Marathon Petroleum can reduce their environmental footprint. This is why Marathon is working to be more energy efficient. Marathon Petroleum is also the only oil refinery company to win an Energy Star Partner of the Year award in 2018 as well as 19. Also, they're the leader in recognition under the Energy Star program, receiving 74% of its total recognition. Marathon Petroleum is also the industry leader in reducing emission from refinery flares. Marathon worked with the EPA to make sure that all petroleum companies' flares must continually operate under 98% combustion efficiency. Marathon Petroleum was always the first petroleum company to produce and publish the results of their own flare performance test, which the EPA acknowledges rare. Marathon Petroleum's energy efficiency efforts have avoided emitting millions of tons of greenhouse gases annually. This is a step that more petroleum companies need to take in order to better the planet, and Marathon is looking to be an example of what to do. Marathon is reducing greenhouse gas emissions by being more efficient, which is bettering the environment in every way possible. No one's going to complain about that. Marathon Petroleum recently constructed a thermal desorption unit, which, without getting too deep into it, it breaks down compounds into molecular forms, which it just gets rid of all the hazardous byproducts, so nothing goes into the air. There's no negative it's not hurting the environment at all. That's in all the refineries. Marathon Petroleum has also worked to decrease their criteria pollutants by 42% or 44,000 tons from 2002 to 18. Marathon Petroleum has invested over $1 billion to achieve these results and to help their case in the future and focus on bettering the environment. These are just some of the ways I learned about how Marathon is helping the environment. Now on to my study. I did a questionnaire, and as you can see in my PowerPoint, these are the questions I asked and exactly how I asked them. I was trying to figure out a range and variety of people, what they thought about Marathon Petroleum. In the upcoming slides, you will see exactly what each person thought about it. But I highlighted the key points, but I have their whole answer, even if you're curious, but I highlighted the key points for your convenience. So Spencer, our first person, is a friend of mine. He's 20 years old and a college student at SVSU. The biggest key thing I noticed is that he doesn't like that Marathon produces a lot of greenhouse gases, which is understandable, but as I found in my research, they're severely cutting down on these emissions. I also found it interesting that what he suggests they're doing, they're already doing. So he's saying they should do stuff, and they're doing it. Stacy Govan is my neighbor's 13-year-old daughter. She has a negative outlook on Marathon because they're harming the environment and only care about money. While this is true to an extent, from my research, I found that they're spending billions of dollars on cutting down on preserving the environment, and that doesn't seem like a company that only cares about making money to me, if they're spending billions on preserving the environment. My father talked about how he's read so many negative studies about petroleum companies, such as I had, but something clear from the rest of his highlighted responses is that he didn't dig deeper like I did. He just looked briefly at the studies and formed an opinion from there. He didn't go much further to get all the information like I did. So that's why he has a negative outlook on it. He didn't do all the research. Tom is a 43-year-old plumber who works for Marathon. Thomas is the only person who is on the same page as me. This is likely because when he was working there, he witnessed all the deeds Marathon was doing. He even points out stuff I didn't know, like the highlighted response in number 4. He was the only one who had a positive outlook on Marathon, which is somewhat what I expected, but I was wishing someone would be more neutral. From the responses in my questionnaire, I determined that people have a negative outlook on Marathon. I expected this, but I didn't expect the people who took the questionnaire to suggest things that are already being done. This is obviously because people aren't fully informed, thus they have a negative outlook without looking at the big picture, which isn't fair, in my opinion. It's almost unjust in a way. Combining my research with my questionnaire, I determined that overall Marathon is doing a lot more than people think. This is mainly because Marathon is doing so much and people think they are doing nothing at all. Marathon is really pushing forward on bettering the planet, and government agencies are basically the only ones that are realizing this is happening and praising them. But that doesn't really matter. The people's opinion is the big thing. As a recap of everything, people have a negative outlook on Marathon, and that's because they're not doing the research. Marathon is putting forth a lot of effort to harm the world as little as possible, and that shows Marathon cares. All in all, I think it's a very important subject that everyone should dive deeper into a subject before forming an opinion, because that opinion could change after you do the research. You can't just go off your initial opinion forever. That was my presentation on Marathon. If anyone has any questions on Marathon, please ask them. Thank you for your time.